Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight's Finance, Budget, and Enrollment Committee meeting. I'm the chair of the committee, Trustee Zakir Patel. We have Dan McLean in the room, and we have trustees online. Welcome, everyone. Before we start the meeting, I would like to do an acknowledgement. If you can rise, please do so. Thank you. We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. May be seated. All right, trustees, I need mover and seconder for the agenda. Trustee McLean, Trustee Laskin. We're going to open the vote.
Show of hands, Mr. Chair. All those
show of hands, fine. Okay. Trustees online. Anybody opposed?
Carried.
Seeing and hearing none, it carried. Number 3, declaration of possible conflict of interest. Trustees, this is your chance to declare if you have any possible conflict of interest. Trustees online. Seeing, hearing none. Moving item number 4, delegations. We do not have any today. Item number 5, staff reports. 5.1, contract awards facilities. And speaking on this.
Thank you, and through the chair, I will ask Executive Officer Snyder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I'd like to take the opportunity before we start to introduce our new Senior Manager of Procurement and Support Services, Anita Manapathathan. And she will be doing these reports in the future, but I'm going to do it tonight as she's still onboarding. So in the contract of facility awards tonight, we have 30 contracts in Appendix A, 4 in Appendix B, and 3 in Appendix C. And there is, as always, any change orders are reported in Appendix C, and there's an explanatory note of one of the contract awards in Appendix H. Myself, Maya Pichetti, and her team are available to answer any questions you may have.
Trustees, any questions? Trustees online? All right, I have one question. Can I pass chair to Trustee McLean?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Patel. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and to you, Mr. Chair. Item number 18. Can we hear more about the job description? Because the sliding doors, and it says 63,300. Am I reading correct?
Mr. Chair, that is the Malvern Collegiate main office and library automated door. I'll turn it over to Executive Officer Pichetti.
Thank you, and through the chair, I will ask Senior Manager Tatina Amin, who is online, to provide a little bit of a description of what this work entails. Jay, if you're there.
It's just connected. If you may want to repeat.
Executive Officer Puchetti, this is Vladimir Tarakanov, Senior Manager of LC2. I can provide the update on this project. Mr. Chair, this project is to improve accessibility of the main office and the library, and it includes installation of automatic door operators and providing power for operating the doors. And the purpose of this project is to make those spaces accessible for the students, staff, and visitors.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, are these electronic doors, the sliding electronic doors, or it's just a regular iron doors?
There is no, Mr. Chair, there is no indication of sliding doors, and there must be regular doors, lift type doors.
Through you, Mr. Chair, how many doors are we talking here? Is it 2 doors, 4 doors, 1 door? Because 63,300 seems a lot to me. But if I hear a description of what type of doors we are installing, right, that will clarify that, or it will justify the dollars mentioned in this contract.
Mr. Chair, I will need 5 or 10 minutes to open up the drawings and count the doors, and I can report back in 5-10 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll wait for the answer.
Could we go on to other questions?
Okay, thank you. I'll return the chair to Trustee Patel. Are you done with, do you have any other questions?
Thank you.
You do not, I'll return the chair to you. I can't see the list, so if you can add my name to the list.
I will. Thank you. Trustees online, if you have any questions, please let me know because I'm just logging into the computer. Or if you can text me on my cell number.
I put mine in the chat. It's Shelley Laskin.
Go ahead, Trustee Laskin.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank staff for their creativity in the briefing note that was included about a repeat design proposal for schools based upon Davisville. It has been a wonderfully fully functioning school with incredible light. And I just urge trustees, if you're interested, I'm happy to arrange a tour of it. It would be an excellent repeater design across the system. So I just wanted to thank staff very much for that.
Thank you.
I'm referring to the briefing note in Appendix F.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Trustee Laskin. Go ahead. The staff wants to comment on this.
Thank you, and through the chair, thank you, Trustee Laskin. You're absolutely right. The design of Davisville is very strong, and we would be happy to organize any tours for trustees. We did speak with Trustee Nunziata about this school and the design, and the fact that it, provides a lot of natural light. It has that wonderful atrium, which brings kids and the community into the building. It's really well organized. It meets a lot of our sustainability targets as well. So we felt it was a very strong candidate to submit to the ministry, since the ministry was looking for boards to submit tried and true shovel-ready projects.
Thank you, Executive Officer Maya Pachoti. Trustee Laskin, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm very happy to facilitate, and just to shout out to Snyder Architects. They were excellent to work with from a community perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Laskin. Trustee McLean?
Okay, thank you, and through the chair. I just want to go on record as I'm in for the tour thing. Sign me up. I also have a question around item 13, around the boilers. And it's not as much a question around this specific project at Anson Taylor. It's kind of the re-asking of a question we've gone over a little bit before around at what point do we start considering heat pumps and to replace the boilers, and the whole province's notion about in kind, and that you have to build what you have to put in, what you replace. And I guess I'm really asking about what is being done to make a business case for 5 years operation of these things is where you save the money, kind of thing. one may cost more up front, much like those light bulbs when we all converted, 3 decades ago, light bulbs became incredibly more expensive. But they lasted longer and we saved money in the long run, and we were better off for the environment. At some point, we're going to be able to make a mathematical or a financial argument about this expenditures, and this keeps being put off. And our students who are very keen on climate see us doing this kind of work and not moving forward. So I'd like kind of an update around this kind of expenditure if I could.
Thank you, and through the chair, those are really very, very important questions to ask. So I will say that with our new schools, this is something that we are certainly looking at. And as I'm sure you understand, there's a lot more opportunity when you're building a brand new school or you're doing a major addition to put in a different mechanical system than the traditional boiler system. There's still some concern about putting the entire building on the heat pump system, because if you do have extreme cold days, the heat pumps don't function. So you still need the backup system. You are absolutely correct that given the current requirements around school condition improvement grant, it pretty much leads us towards replacing the mechanical system with a traditional boiler system. And so most of our focus has been to look at new schools to see or major additions where we can focus some of that attention. I don't know how quite to or where to make the case. We're not at that point yet to make the case to the ministry for existing buildings, because frankly, the cost to switch to a different mechanical system typically has a much longer payback in an existing building than it would if we were to make the case for installing them in a new building. So we have our climate change report that comes annually, and I would like to see if we can include some of that information in the climate change report, just in terms of how to position ourselves for going forward. But just to say that for new schools, this is an area that we're certainly looking at and making the case with the ministry, as you say, from a cost benefit analysis that, yeah, you may spend a little more building the school, but over time, you're going to reap all kinds of operational savings.
Thank you, and through the chair, I mean, it's encouraging to hear about the new builds, but we don't get, we have, 582 schools, and they're all quite old, and, we get one every year whenever we traditionally get one every time that the ministry comes around. So hopefully we'll do a little better with that, and in time make this. So I do hope that we are continuing to explore what's possible in terms of when we renovate and when we replace, and because it's going to take, it'll take decades and, maybe an entire century before we entirely run across and replace our existing buildings.
Thank you. And if I could just add to that as well, I think it's important to note that when we do these major upgrades to building mechanical systems, we, even though we're replacing it with the traditional boiler system, we're already putting in a boiler that is of much higher efficiency. We're replacing the old controls. We're putting in building automation systems. And from those actions, as well as changing the way we operate the buildings, like paying attention to set temperature and time of operation and, not running the heating system over the weekend and so on, we are finding significant savings, not only on our utility bills, but a significant reduction in greenhouse gas. And that's one of the most exciting things that our climate change report is going to highlight, which is coming to the trustees I think later in the fall or early in the spring.
That's great. And again, through you, Chair, thank you. Thank you for that. I look forward to reading the report. And I think that that is something we ought to crow about. We ought to, we ought to be talking about that. I think it's really important that our students see us moving in this direction. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Trustee McLean. Thank you, staff. Any trustees? Questions?
The senior manager can answer your question.
Please, go ahead. Senior officer?
Mr. Chair, I can answer a question about Malvern CI. We have double door in the library and single door in the main office to be equipped with automatic door operators, and the power will be provided for those. We have received 7 bids for that project, and the lowest one is presented in the report. The highest one was $172,000, and the 5 remain are in between.
I'll pass on chair to Trustee McLean.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Patel.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Officer, for that. I just want to know, are this the sliding doors, the fireproof doors, what type of doors these are? I think we are only putting 3 doors. So I'd like to know what type of doors these doors are.
Mr. Chair, the doors are existing doors. We are adding automatic door operators to the existing doors. The doors are likely to be fire rated, but they're existing.
Through the chair, if I may, just to say that they are existing doors, and typically doors in school corridors are fire-rated doors. So these would not be wooden doors, they would be most likely metal doors with fire-rated glazing in the doors. And they are existing doors, but now we are adding the automatic, the buttons that you push that automatically open the doors, not sliding, but swing. And when you push it, the door will automatically open. And so though that part of that complication of that work is that all has to be tied back to the fire alarm system. So it's not just, oh, you put a button here and wire it. No, it has to go back and be tied to the fire alarm system. So that's part of the reason it is a more expensive project than just adding a button on the side of the door.
And through the chair, what I will add to that is, this is why it's so important for the ministry to provide us with a funding source for accessibility, because accessibility is so important in our schools, yet we have no funding source attached to it. So it's why we are looking to use proceeds of disposition, because it's so costly in order to make our schools accessible. And so you're talking, 2 doors really that we're making accessible, and that's the cost. Imagine doing that across the system and how expensive it is, because as the senior manager indicated, this was a highly contested project with 7 bids, and yet the number that you're seeing is the lowest.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And that's what I want to understand, what type of doors these are, because I do understand the cost. I have a bit knowledge of the fireproof doors, the sliding doors. So I was just looking for an answer of what type of doors are we installing, because what I'm hearing is this is the existing door. We are not putting in new doors. If it was a replacement doors, I get it fully that this is the replacement doors. But this is an existing project which, I'm still not convinced, but then I'll rest my case right here because there are 7 bids, and I'm pretty sure that description is something else. I'm not getting the answer of the description, what I'm looking for, what type of doors, what's in the door, things like that. Because when we put out the RFP, I'm pretty sure there might be a description of what we are looking for. Based on those descriptions, we get RFPs. Based on those descriptions, these companies, they bid.
Executive Officer Pachetti, did you want to share?
Yes, yes, thank you, thank you. And Trustee Patel, you're absolutely right. We do put out a tender package that describes what the work will entail. I don't know whether we did it in this case, but we often also have mandatory site visits so that the contractors have to come to the school and see what they're bidding on before they submit a bid. So that tender package, we can share a plan that shows what is in the scope of work. But these are existing doors, and we are adding the automatic door release function to those doors. And in doing so, we have to tie it back to the fire alarm system, and it has to meet the building code because these are fire-rated doors.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
You done?
I'm good, yes.
Okay, thanks. I'll return the chair to you.
Thank you, Trustee McLean. And do you have a question, Trustee Hastings?
I have a request. Sorry. I have a request. We are touring that particular construction or those doors. I would like to be on that with Dan as well.
Through the chair, Trustee Hastings, I don't think we are planning to do a tour of the doors or the school at this point. The tour we were referring to actually is a tour that we will work with Trustee Laskin to organize, which is a tour of Davisville.
And it has use of these particular doors.
Well, Davisville does have
That's what I
automatic
wanna go and
doors
see.
on it. Yeah, it does, because it's a brand-new building.
Let me explain, Trustee Hastings. So sometimes when these contracts are done through RFP, the contractors are invited to come and visit the site, to look at what work is involved. So I think Maya is referring to that, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And what Trustee Laskin said was a tour of the school and the type of work done at the school. So we are talking about two different things in here, right? The second one is not a tour. What she's referring is about the contractors visiting the site first before they bid on a contract.
Mr. Chair, he's going, I'm with him.
All right, thank you. So Trustee Laskin, you got two trustees who have confirmed so far, and I believe Trustee Laskin has another question.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, but your comments just raised for me. I'm wondering again, through you, Mr. Chair, to the Associate Director, perhaps once again, you could explain to trustees how the RFP process, how we bid on it, the steps involved with it, and the fact that we do take the lowest bid when we put these projects out. I just find the questioning implied that staff wasn't doing something appropriately in their description, and that bothered me. So I wanted to say that to staff. Maybe trustees need to be re-educated about the whole competitive bidding process. Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair, to staff.
Thank you, Trustee Laskin. And through the chair, we are looking at, with the help of our new purchasing senior manager and the purchasing policy coming forward, we are looking at the possibility of an information session with regards to competitive purchasing, just to provide that refresher and to make sure that trustees are aware of the stringent processes that we go through and follow as a result of the broader public sector procurement guidelines. So I think that I will leave it there just to say that there are very strict guidelines that we follow, and that when we do RFPs for this work, whether we have pre-qualified or not, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, that there would be a competitive process and we would take the lowest bid.
Thank you, Trustee Laskin. Associate Director Stacy. Any other trustees? Go ahead, Trustee Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to clarify what was just said by Trustee Laskin. We're not here to examine what is. We're here to see what is. We're not there to go and examine and have an opinion. We're there to see what is. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hastings. Trustees, any more questions before I ask for mover and seconder on this item? Trustee McLean, I need a seconder for this. Trustees online?
Trustee Dovitis can second.
Thank you, Trustee Vice Chair Davies.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. Trustee Hassan and Trustee Laskin.
Trustee Shan in favor.
Sorry,
Hassan in
Trustee
favor.
Laskin in favor.
Trustee
And-
Hassan.
Trustee Hassan in favor.
Mr. Chair, could you ask trustees who joined after roll call to identify
Yes,
themselves?
once this item is done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Shan is there. Thank you. We'll close the vote.
And it carries. Thank you, trustees. Trustees who have joined after the roll call, can you please identify yourself? Thank you. Trustee Hastings in the board room.
Trustee Shan is here.
Trustee Williams, sorry.
Dawson is here.
Trustee Williams here.
Any other trustees? Thank you, trustees, for joining. Item 5.2, contract awards operations. And who is speaking on this?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Tonight's awards, there is nothing on Appendix A or B. There are 7 contracts for approval at board level, and the staff are here and happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions on the item, trustees? Trustees online? Trustee McLean, go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, can you tell me the difference between item 1 and item 4 and item 7? And I guess I noticed there's 4 bidders on each. The same group seems to have won. If this is all central supplies, was there an opportunity to do them together and save some money by buying them in bigger bulk, or did we do that and this is simply a bookkeeping distinction?
Through you, Mr. Chair, items 4 and 7, while the same suppliers are for different purposes, one is for schools that they can purchase directly through our catalog, and the other one is for our distribution center that stocks the equipment. The one for the distribution center is on the OECM contract that we joined, so the pricing is set, and the other one is one that we went out for bid ourselves. Oh, yeah.
So if I'm understanding correctly, then that there wasn't an opportunity to try to do this together and get a better deal just based on the volumes?
Right, the OECM contract has set items that have been agreed to on price, and then we went out to get some additional items that we stock in our. Sorry, I just got corrected by my new senior manager. Both are OECM contracts, and they were both on the same pricing, but we have one for schools and one for our central departments, DEC to stock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I'm good.
Thank you, Trustee McLean. Trustees online? Hearing none, I need a mover and seconder. Trustee McLean.
Trustee Laskin.
Trustee Laskin. Can we open the vote, please?
Laskin in favor.
Shan in favor. Hassan in favor.
And it carried. Thank you, trustees. Item 5.3, update on honoraria for trustees.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is the update for your next term in office starting November 15th of this year. And as following regulations, we established the criteria. And as you can see for this year, starting November 15th through November 14th of 25, the honorarium for trustees is $24,535. For the vice chair is $29,535, and for the chair is $34,535, and for student trustees is $2,500. I will note that this is based on the enrollments at the previous year budget time, and this honorarium has increased starting in November by $586. Happy to take any questions through the chair.
Thank you, Executive Officer Craig. Trustees, questions? Trustees online? Seeing.
Sorry, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I think it's important for, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important for the public to understand the formula. And so I'm just, in looking at the agenda, it says, under the Education Act and corresponding Ontario regulation. Could we explain that a little bit in more detail as to what exactly that means? What are the regulations versus what's contained in our policy? And how has that influenced the difference in compensation this year compared to previous years?
So you, Mr. Chair, the first thing is that the ministry regulation uses the prior year schools board's estimated enrollment. So that means for the 24-25 trustee honorarium, they're basing it on the enrollment from 23-24 estimates. So that's the rolling procedure annually that happens. It's 1 year using prior year enrollment to calculate the enrollment amount. There are base amounts, as it says in the report. So each trustee is given a base amount of $5,900, and the chair and vice chair get supplements on that base amount. But it's determined by regulation by the total enrollment by $1.75 to get to the enrollment amount, and it's divided by the number of trustees that the board has to get to the enrollment amount. I'm happy to take any further questions through the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to follow up through the chair, it's correct to say that the compensation is determined by ministry guidelines and not by trustees themselves. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it's all governed by regulations, and the regulations are quoted in the report of being the honorarium regulation is 357/6, and the student trustee honorarium is regulated by 7-07.
Thank you. And just a related question, but maybe a related question through the chair. Does this also impact our discretionary budget?
Through you, Mr. Chair, discretionary budgets decided by the board at the board's annual budget process.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Trustee Dawson. Any trustees? All right, I need a mover and seconder. Trustee McLean,
Laskin,
Trustee Laskin,
Laskin in favor.
Chan in favor. Hassan in favor.
mine is not coming up. I'm in favor. It's not coming up. I'm in favor. Okay, thank you, trustees. It carries. Item 5.4, Ontario Public School Boards Association 2024-2025 Annual Membership Fee. Speaking
Through
on
you,
this.
Mr. Chair, this is for approval by the board of your membership fee for the 24-25 school year in the amount of $442,179.70, including HST. Prior year, the amount was $437,484.02, And in Appendix A, it outlines the invoice, and Appendix B provides a letter from OFSPA on the benefits of it. And they quote savings in copyright tariffs and school energy coalition amounts. And it also provides on page 37 of our agenda the additional benefits of professional development for trustees, the work on labor relations, advocacy and action, communications and public affairs, as well as their website. And through you, Mr. Chair, we're happy to take any questions on this report as well.
Thank you, Executive Officer. We have Trustee McLean on the list.
Thank you, and through the chair. The Executive Officer talked about additional benefits. I'd like to learn more about the copyright tariffs and a refund check of $563,000 that is quoted in the report. Is that a collective thing, or did we get a check for that amount, or?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did, and what we can do is in Trustee Weekly provide a more fulsome description of the litigation that the OPSPA went through to get that award for school boards.
But at the end of the day, we're $500K better off for the work that was done collectively on our behalf through OPSPA.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee McLean. Trustees online? Seeing, hearing none.
Oh, actually, can I just, sorry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Trustee Arts, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, this is just a point of curiosity. I see the taxes, the HST is, sorry, I lost my place on my page. It's like in the order of $50,000. Is this an HST that we can apply back from the government?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we'll get our HST rebate as we do with all other invoices, but this is the amount we'll be paying to OPSPA for the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Arts. Any other trustees? Can I have a mover and seconder? Trustee McLean. I need a seconder for this item.
Laskin.
Trustee Laskin.
And Laskin in favor.
And in favor.
Trustee Hassan.
Hassan in favor.
Thank you. And it carries, and this brings to the last item on the agenda, but before we go on adjournment, thank you trustees, thank you staff, and the community members for joining tonight's FPAC meeting. I need a mover and seconder.
Laskin.
For adjournment. Trustee Laskin and Trustee McLean. Anybody oppose? Any trustees oppose? Seeing, hearing none. I guess it carried, right? Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and have a safe trip home.
Thank you. The sound was much better tonight.